English Heritage is collaborating with Brunel University in a very exciting historical experiment. We're putting on a production of Love's Welcome, written by the great poet and playwright Ben Jonson for the entertainment of King Charles I and Henrietta Maria in 1634. We've got a fantastic team of experts from all over the country, and bringing these people together to put on a production of this nature is an incredibly exciting project for English Heritage.
A masque is a combination of drama, poetry, music and scenery, and it is both spoken and dance.
No masque! I'm sure on't. No masque indeed.
So masque consists of two pieces. The first part is what we call the anti-masque, which was usually spoken, usually by professional actors, and they would represent the forces of disorder at the court. At a certain point, usually a heroic figure would appear and banish these forces of disorder, and then we would get a vision of the order and beauty of the court, the sort of power, if you like, of the Stuart government represented in a theatrical form. Then the aristocratic dancers would appear, and accompanied by music, they would perform a very elaborate series of dances. Then, at the end of the performance, all the performers would gather together with the members of the audience, and they would dance what are called the revels, which is the social bit. It's more like a bit of a party at the end of the performance.
Approach to the gentleman. And ring round.
The audience are an essential part of our project. I hope they love the costume and the dances, but I also hope maybe they pick up some of the context that we've brought into it, some of the sort of political points that we've introduced through some of the characters, and can tell us what impact that has on them. Does it change their views and perceptions of Bolsover?
The scale of the entertainment was unprecedented. There are actually letters describing the amount of food that was consumed. For example, we know that they had a 28-foot long table of pickled fish. So there is this huge effort at entertaining, and where we are now trying to develop the work is first of all to understand very, very particularly the physical constraints and the physical environment in which the performance might have occurred.
We've got the original text, but a lot isn't in there, the music and the dance, for example. So we're bringing those from contemporary 17th century composers.
We know when you look at the documentation that there is a dance that happens, but it's very rare that we get a specific dance mentioned. So I have to go back to the few manuscripts that are surviving from the period, and I piece together using styles. I want to bring these dances alive. They're so rarely performed, they're so rarely danced, and to study them on a page is one thing, but you don't really learn about how they worked until you get them up on their feet, and to be given the opportunity to be able to get them up onto their feet is priceless.
The steps themselves aren't that difficult because it's not recognisable steps we've done before. It can be difficult to remember what's next, really. The fact that we're performing on the site is really exciting. There'll be some working out to do. Can the musicians be heard while we're clogging on the grass and all these sorts of things? But it'll be really exciting and just trying to figure out how to make it work.
I've really enjoyed it because learning so much about Bolsover and like the time that we're personifying essentially is really, really interesting, because you learn that there was so much happening and how you fit into it.
Are you lead miners? Are you lead miners?
The anti-masque would be used by someone like Jonson to make some political points, to make some contemporary points. So we're actually using these bits which precede the masque in a very similar way to the way they were used in the 17th century.
This place is literally crawling with militia. Isn't it, Alice?
Aye, it is.
And what will they do if they catch us?
Well, they'll beat us up or they'll put us in prison.
Or
both.
The miners are there because at precisely the time in 1634 when the masque was being done, the miners were trying to petition the king.
I'm playing a miner, so I've been learning a lot of the politics of the miners' revolt. They're trying to give this petition to the king, but obviously they're not allowed into the masques that everyone will be attending to. So I've had to learn a lot of kind of the hard work that the miners had to go through at that time. Instead of just being given a script and kind of being sent away to go and learn the lines. We're actually having to go through the history with historians and learn a lot more of the background and politics that were happening at that time. So when we go on and do this pure improvisation act, we get everything right.
You're right, it's not that safe. Maybe we should just go.
No, Alice, we've got to stay. We've got petitions for King, remember? We've got to save our land, you see. Hang on a minute, Alice. These lot aren't lead miners. What are they?
Yeah, we work hard scrubbing their dirty sheets from dusk till dawn.
Agnes, what's your tongue? Well, wash your mouth out with soap.
Not that Catholic soap.
Oh no, not that Catholic. We won't get started on it. I know they proved it at St. Paul's, but I'm just going to stick to the normal Protestant stuff for me.
It's important to have that context, otherwise you produce a version of history which ignores real social conflict going on at the same time as these high cultures going on.
We're really hoping to ask our audience what impact it's had on them, but we also want to know what the experience was like for the performers, and also for us as historians, we're interested in how it works acoustically, theatrically. How do we notice the King and Queen are reacting? Are the audience looking at the King and Queen?
God save the King!
God save the King!
God save the Prince!
What we're trying to use performance to do is give a modern audience some of the sense of what going to a masque might have been like. That audience part of it is going to be very important. So this is our first step in seeing how a modern audience might get on with that idea and seeing whether we could really push the research questions that stage further.
Left shoulder.
I like the way that they engage with the audience and everything, and I was staggered when they brought the child in. It was a real baby. I thought that was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it.
I thought it was really unusual, very beautiful, lovely setting. I enjoyed the characterisation of the different types of people, the lead miners and the servant girls. I thought it was smashing. Great sense of humour. That came across very well.
One of the moments that was absolutely astonishing was standing in the small courtyard and looking up at the actors playing Charles and the Queen on the balcony and thinking, they stood there in 1634, because we're fairly sure they did, even if we're not quite sure where the masque took place. And that was quite amazing.
We think there's huge potential still. In fact, there's sort of few references in the text to stage settings, for example, that we would really like to recreate. But we also think there are different locations that are possible for this entertainment within the site.
What we hope is that next year we'll be able to actually reproduce the masque on a larger scale. So we've used a mixture here of professional performers and student actors. The idea is that in the future we'll actually have this as a full-scale professional production. But the key thing that you will get, if we can get ourselves organised, is we will actually produce the cloud machine. And the opportunity, this piece of 17th century theatrical technology in operation, is going to be the great sort of goal of the rest of the research project.
Amazing space, really theatrical, brilliant acoustically, and I think it worked very well here in the garden, so hopefully we can have Cupids coming off the cloud machine in the future.